chapter 11, verses 1 to 11. Now when they drew near Jerusalem to Bethphage and Bethany, at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two of his disciples, and he said to them, "Go into the village opposite you, and as soon as you have entered it, you will find a colt tied there, on which no one has sat. Loose it and bring it. And if anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' say, 'The Lord has need of it, and immediately we will send it here.'" So they went their way and found the colt tied by the door outside of the street, and they loosed it. But some of those who stood there said to them, "What are you doing loosening the colt?" And they spoke to them just as Jesus had commanded. So they let them go. Then they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their clothes on it, and he sat on it. And many spread their clothes on the road, and others cut down leafy branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then those who were before and those who were following cried out, saying, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the kingdom of our father David that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest." And Jesus went into Jerusalem, into the temple. So when he had looked around at all things, as the hour was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. The word of the Lord.
Reading from Mark 14:32 through 38. Then they came to a place which was named Gethsemane, and they said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." And he took Peter, James, and John with him. And he began to be troubled and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, "My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch." He went a little farther and fell on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but what you will." Then he came and found them sleeping and said to Peter, "Simon, are you sleeping? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray, lest you enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak."
From his judgment seat, Pilate looked over the seething crowd as they poured into the courtyard. The courtyard was like a boiling cauldron inflamed with the fever of hysteria. Pilate ordered the captain to triple the guard. He could not lose control. There could be a riot. Pilate has to shout to be heard.
This man is innocent. He does not deserve to die.
The mob's response was instant and savage. Frantic and confused, Pilate searched the face of Jesus for an answer, any answer. The fury of the crowd could not be held much longer. Then Pilate smiled and ordered a servant to bring him a basin of water. He had found a way to appease his mind. He would not have the death of an innocent man on his conscience. Pilate dipped his hands into the water and bellowed above the roar.
I am innocent of this man's blood. Crucify him yourselves.
The crowd reached the height of its frenzy. Pilate turned to Jesus.
The decision was theirs.
Then Pilate ordered his soldiers to take charge of Jesus. The soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole Roman company around him. They stripped Jesus of the rags he wore, put a scarlet robe on him, then wove a crown of briar thorns and set it on his head. One soldier put a reed staff in Jesus' right hand. Another propped Jesus against a column while the soldiers knelt in front of Jesus or danced around him, mocking him and calling him a king. Then their scorn turned to anger. The soldiers began to beat Jesus over the head with the reed staff. They spat in his face, stripped him, then threw him over a bench and flogged him. After they had finished flogging Jesus, they put his clothes back on him. The captain of the guard dropped the cross on Jesus' lacerated back and ordered him to walk. Staggering under the pain and weight of the cross, Jesus was pushed into the narrow street, swarming with those who would curse him, weep over him, or look upon him with stunned, hollow silence. Jesus blinked the sweat and blood from his eyes and started walking to Calvary, down the road of suffering, down the Via Dolorosa.